questions that I get asked a lot is, why do you do this? I mean, it's a lot of work. Why do you grow all of this food? Why did you turn your yard into 64 garden plots when you can easily go to the store and buy food there? Why do you do all this? I'm Ginger from Wild Ginger Living, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. I grew up in a background where I got to witness two different farming systems. In one system, on my mom's side of the family, my uncle owned 3,000 acres. There was multiple acre. We had 500 head of cattle, acreage and acreage and acreage of soybeans, corn, standard American crops. On the other side of the family, I have a great-grandmother who is part Native American and believed in doing everything in an earth-friendly way and in keeping with sustainability and sustainable practices. So I got to witness one system versus the other system. And one of the things that I always thought when I was a little girl is you really can't do a lot of food production and feed yourself on a small acreage. I always thought that you had to have a lot of acreage, you had to have a barn, you had to have a lot of equipment in order to feed your family. So that's one belief I grew up with, but yet I was watching my great-grandmother, who grew up in the Great Depression and had to feed herself, do it on a very small plot of land. I mean, she may have had acreage, but what she actually farmed was about as big as what I have now, which is a quarter acre. So another thing that influenced me is, so I had the idea that you could do a lot intensively on a small amount of land. I grew up, I had a family and found myself as a single mother living in Columbus, Ohio, trying to just make it with a son, and it was hard to make the bills. So I decided that what I was going to do was I was going to start an herb farm and start taking my stuff. Yes, an herb farm. We're talking about a city back lot with a fence around it. So I turned that into an herb farm and started selling what I had at Worthington Farmers Market and some of the other local farmers market in Columbus, Ohio. I made surprisingly more than I thought I would in that endeavor, proving to myself that yes, you could do quite a bit on a very small, on just a few even borders around a city lot. Then along comes the movement of urban farms. Once again, I was influenced by a lot of people who proved that you could not only make a good sustainable amount of cash, but feed yourself on a small plot. One of those was Swainway Farms. You ought to look up their videos. He's wonderful. So let's get back to what I'm doing here. We have 64 plots. As you can see, we're surrounded by the Great American Lawn. Nothing wrong with that, but it is actually, in my view, one of the greatest environmental disasters ever to come about. It feeds nothing. It requires a lot of in-good so that you can impress your neighbors. But I, frankly, can't see a reason for doing that amount of work just to satisfy your impression of what somebody else thinks of you. I guess I'm a little bit of a rebel like that. Let's come over here and see what we can do. One of the best examples I can show as to why I'm doing all of this is that last year I canned 85 quarts of tomato sauce and plain tomatoes from 4 foot by 8 foot beds. That's right, you heard it right. 85 quarts from 4 4x8 tomato beds. And I did it in a way where the soil will not lose fertility. And that's one of the reasons why I do that. Another reason, I can control the inputs. I know what is and isn't in these tomatoes. That's something that I can't say from tomatoes from the grocery store. Another reason, taste. That nothing beats homegrown and home canned food. So that we'll be talking a little bit more as the season goes along about how I do it.